Good morning. Okay, let's start with the obvious. Greenland isn't green. You know it, I know it, the glaciers definitely know it. So how did we arrive at this nation-scale case of false advertising? And why isn't it called rocky, windswept, and perilously uninhabitable land? Well, in short, it just doesn't sound as good. But today we're going to discover the real story of Greenland's naming and perhaps take a crash course in guerrilla marketing, Viking style. So let's rewind. We're in the 10th century in Iceland, and the man of the moment is Eric Thorvaldsson. He's better known to us as Eric the Red. And as far as nicknames go, that one says a lot. Now, the red might refer to his hair or maybe his beard, but also seems to match his temper. Because Eric was not what you'd call a gentle negotiator. He was born in Norway, but he came to Iceland as a child after his father, Thorvald, was exiled for manslaughter. Turns out this was something of a family tradition. Because Eric didn't exactly settle down quietly either. He got into a dispute with a neighbor over some property, specifically over some beams that had washed ashore and then had been taken for house building. Harsh words were exchanged, then axes. One thing led to another, and Eric killed the man. That got him exiled for 3 years. Temporary, but serious. So, naturally, Eric responded by committing more murder. While preparing to leave Iceland, he tried to retrieve some items left with some neighbors, and in the process, another argument broke out. More people ended up dead, and that wasn't just frowned upon, it sealed his fate. Iceland banished him completely. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Eric didn't just sulk off into the mist. He saw an opportunity. You see, he'd heard rumors of a strange land west of Iceland, an icy place that had been spotted by sailors like Gunnbjorn Ulfsson. Nobody had settled it, nobody owned it, and it was, in Eric's mind, ripe for the taking. So, with a few companions, he set off into exile around the year 982 AD, not with shame, but with something much more productive, ambition. They sailed west across the Denmark Strait, navigating by the sun, by the stars, until finally they saw it. Greenland. Not the whole thing, Greenland is enormous, but the southern tip around today's Qaqortoq. And if you arrive in the midsummer, as Eric likely did, it's not an entirely hopeless sight. The fjords are carved and green, the inland ice is distant, the hillsides can be rich with moss and scrub, even pasture land. It's not paradise, but if you've just been kicked out of Iceland, it'll do. Eric spent the next 3 years exploring and surviving. He wintered in the fjords, he tested the land's potential, he memorized its shape. He wasn't just hiding out, he was drawing up a plan. And when his exile ended, he sailed back to Iceland, not with a story of hardship, but with a pitch. Now remember, this is a man who's been exiled for murder twice, and yet somehow he convinces people to follow him. That says a lot about Eric the Red. He may have been a killer, but he was also a killer salesman. And as every salesman knows, you don't have long to make a good first impression, and a name counts for a lot. So he called his land Greenland, saying people would go, they would be attracted to go there if it had a favorable name. Let's pause on that for a moment, because that's not just an accidental name. That's a marketing strategy. 500 years before the first business school, Eric the Red instinctively knew what is now backed up by decades of research in behavioral economics and sales theory. If the name sounds appealing, people are more likely to buy it. Or in this case, more likely to sail to it and risk dying there. Eric the Red organized an expedition. Everyone was given branded hats and ponchos, a commemorative pin. According to the sagas, 25 ships set sail for Greenland in 985 AD. Only 14 made it. These were open-decked wooden longships, sturdy, yes, but utterly exposed to the North Atlantic's bitter winds, the freezing spray, those unpredictable swells that we'll feel later on today. Every wave over the bow was a gamble. Those that did complete the treacherous journey established two main settlements: the eastern settlement in modern-day Qaqortoq and the western settlement near to the present-day capital, Nuuk. Though eastern and western is a bit misleading because they're both on the southern fringe of Greenland, separated by over 300 miles of mountains, fjord, and ice. Anyway, Eric himself preferred the eastern settlement on a fjord that he modestly named Eric's Fjord, because of course, why not? And the settlers built farms with turf walls, with sod roofs. They raised sheep, goats, cattle, at least in the summer. And they made butter, they made cheese. They hunted seals, they fished where they could. They didn't just survive, they sent goods back to Europe, especially walrus ivory, which became a luxury material for carving and for trade. At their height, the Norse Greenlanders may have numbered between 2,000 to 5,000 people. Not huge, more a large village than a booming colony, but enough to support churches, monasteries. Even a bishop was shipped out from Norway. They lived here for centuries. They celebrated weddings, held Christmas feasts. They buried their dead in a proper Christian fashion. They clung tightly to their European identity, right down to importing stained glass and church bells, even when the food was scarce. But let's be honest, it wasn't easy. Because as much as Eric's pitch sold Greenland as this land of opportunity, the product came with a long list of side effects. Winter was long, fuel was scarce, storms were brutal, the farms were fragile, the thin soil could be very easily ruined by overgrazing or erosion. And to make matters worse, around the year 1250, the climate began to cool. It was the start of what we now call the Little Ice Age. And this meant shorter growing seasons, even harsher winters, sea ice creeping further south. And that's really not ideal when your survival plan depends on a few sheep and a shipment of barley that might not arrive. So how did the Norse respond to these changing situations? Well, they doubled down. They built bigger churches. They built more impressive graves. And they tried to prove to themselves, maybe to the outside world, that they were still proper Europeans, civilized, Christian, connected. But that connection was slipping away. It might have been meaningful to Greenlanders, but to the motherland, this rough, rock and iced outpost in the North Atlantic did not come to mind very often. And by the late 1300s, contact with Europe had pretty much entirely dwindled. The western settlement vanished first, no one really knows when or how, and the eastern settlement limped along until around 1450, and then just disappeared without ceremony. There was no battle, there were no famine graveyards, no mass migration, just silence. For archaeologists and historians, it's one of the strangest stories of slow motion collapse in the medieval world. But that's not the end of the story, because while the Norse settlements faded, Greenland wasn't empty. In fact, it never had been empty. Because while Eric the Red was out there spinning the North Atlantic's first real estate ad, another civilization was thriving in Greenland, one that didn't need slogans, didn't need bishops, didn't need stained glass windows to prove their worth. The Inuit. Now, technically, we're talking about several cultural waves over thousands of years, from the early Sakak, the Dorset peoples, right the way through to the Thule culture. They arrived from the west around the 12th century AD. And it's the Thule people who are the direct ancestors of the modern-day Greenlandic Inuit, the Kalaallit. They didn't just survive here. They flourished, not in castles, not in cathedrals, but in balance with the land. While the Norse clung on to farming and they waited for that next ship from Norway, the Inuit moved with the seasons. They traveled lightly. They followed the animals. They followed the seals, the walruses, the whales, the caribou. They built kajaks and umiaks. They developed dog sleds. They made insulated clothing from the animals' skins. And they lived in turf houses that were warmer than their Norse counterparts. They didn't just know how to read the ice. They knew it so well. If the Norse brought a marketing strategy built around projection, a polished image of what Greenland could be, the Inuit model was the other way around. It was built on observation. They didn't try to impose a lifestyle. They adapted to the one that was already available. And in doing so, they left a much lighter footprint, but a much longer legacy. They shared knowledge not through written laws or church sermons, but through oral tradition, stories, songs, teachings passed on from one generation to the next. And these weren't bedtime tales, these were manuals. These were manuals for survival, how to hunt, how to navigate, how to respect the land, how to behave with others. That's their version of marketing, if you want to call it that. But what they were marketing was different. They weren't marketing a dream life to lure people to a distant land. They were marketing survival, how to survive in the land that you find yourself in. And it was a clever strategy. Long before Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the Inuit strategy dug deep into the foundations of that pyramid, whilst the Norse slipped from the icy top. When the Norse settlements crumbled and disappeared, the Inuit stayed. They're still here. They are Greenland. So let's open up the portal and prepare for our visit. 2 ports of call here. We'll start with Paamiut, and then we'll go on to Qaqortoq. Paamiut is a really small town on the southwest coast of Greenland. It's located at the mouth of the Qaqortoq Fjord, and it was officially founded in 1742. It was founded as a trading post by the Danish colonial administration, primarily focused on seal hunting and later cod fishing. The population today is about 1,300 people, most of whom are of Inuit descent. The town remains reliant on fishing as its main economic activity, and Paamiut has no road connections to any other settlements. It is accessible only by sea and air, which is very typical of Greenland. It lies within the Arctic coastal climate zone. It's got cold winters, cool summers, and frequent FOG. It is a tender port as well, and so we'll be tendering in, and then it's a short walk from there. Actually, whilst we've got this map up, you'll see where the town stops. The end of the road, the end of the road, the end of the road. Nothing continues from there. It's amazing. And there are 3 highlights. Paamiut Museum is a local cultural museum. It's housed in a group of well-preserved colonial buildings, which are from the 18th and 19th centuries. And it offers insight into the town's history, the Inuit traditions, the impact of Danish colonization. Exhibits include traditional hunting tools, kayaks, clothing, household items, alongside displays on local wildlife, maritime history. The museum provides a glimpse into real daily life in southwest Greenland over the centuries. It's really convenient for us. It's located just around the harbour, so it's a pretty short walk from pretty much anywhere in town. Now, it's typically open in the summer months. I really hope I think we are the first cruise ship to attempt to get there this year. I really hope they are open for us. There is no indication as to what they think of as summer months. So I would really hope that they open for us. And there's a small fee to get in. Guided tours may be available on request. Our Saviour's Church in Paamiut is a striking wooden church. It was built in 1909, and it's known for its distinctive Norwegian-style architecture, bright red exterior, and it stands as one of Greenland's most photographed churches. It remains a very important symbol of the town's Lutheran heritage. The church was constructed during a period of strong Danish missionary influence here and continues to serve as an important and active place of worship for the local community. If you go inside, you'll find simple wooden pews, a painted pulpit, maritime-themed decor that reflects Paamuit's seafaring traditions. It's free to visit. It's usually open during the summer season, and hopefully that means it will be open for us too. And the third point of interest that you might want to head towards is the watchtower. So the watchtower in Paamiut is a small wooden structure. It's perched on a hill overlooking the town. It was originally built as a lookout point. It's been used to monitor ship traffic and to assist with maritime navigation, especially during the town's busiest fishing seasons, where it really does get busy in the harbour. It's no longer in active use, but the tower remains a local landmark. It offers panoramic views of Paamiut and, of course, the North Atlantic coastline. And so you can climb up it. It's a short walk. It's free to visit, and you just let yourself in across the rocks and climb up the wooden staircase. The thing that I will say about everywhere in Paamiut is everywhere is open to explore, in that you can walk around anywhere. You can't go too far because it stops. So explore the whole town, get a feel for this really small town feel in southern Greenland. But be aware that not everywhere is flat. And so some places, you'll see in this picture, it's very rocky, it's very natural. And so the land itself has not been especially tamed in all places. And that gives it its huge charm. But it also means that some people are going to want to stay in that more local area where the roads have been built up. As you go outside of the residential roads, you start to look at something which is a little bit more craggy. And here are all three of those highlights on a map. And you can see there's plenty of green as well in the town centre, and so feel free again to just walk around and enjoy being there. I don't know. Moving on to Qaqortoq. Qaqortoq is the largest town in southern Greenland with a population of around 3,000 people. Founded in 1775 as a Danish trading post also, it served as the regional hub for fishing, education, and administration. And the town reflects a mix of Inuit and Danish heritage. Both have deep ties to traditional hunting practices here, modern Greenlandic life as well. It's located near several fjords. There are some inland lakes here as well. And because of this, Qaqortoq experiences a relatively mild Arctic climate. Short summers, snowy winters, but generally doesn't fully ice up. The community here is known for its focus on education, local craftsmanship, and preserving Greenlandic language and identity through schools and cultural institutions. And it's another tender port. We have this tender pier booked for us. This is called King's Bridge. I don't know which king, and I can't see the bridge. But there it is on a map. Again, I've not put how long it takes to walk there, because once you get off the tender, you are there. The thing to be aware of here in Qaqortoq is it's hilly, and so there's a fair amount of walking up hills and then back down hills to get back down to the tender area. You can see it is slightly bigger than Paamiut. Let's have a look at the highlights, of which I have 6. Qaqortoq Museum is located, if we're there on a Monday, that sucks, doesn't it? We've flipped it to Monday now. We'll keep talking about it anyway. It's also closed on a Saturday, but we were originally there on a Sunday. Qaqortoq Museum is located in a former blacksmith's house. It dates back to 1804. That makes it one of the oldest buildings in the town. The museum showcases local history with exhibits covering Inuit culture, Norse settlements, colonial trade, everyday life in southern Greenland. Artifacts include traditional hunting tools, kayaks, period clothing, historical photos. There's a room dedicated to the Danish polar explorer Knud Rasmussen, highlighting his contributions to Arctic exploration. And the museum also features rotating exhibitions, artwork by local Greenlandic artists. It is open mainly in the summer, and I don't know if it will or will not be open when we get there. I am imagining that we are a large enough ship that they will notice that we're arriving. So I do keep my fingers crossed that things will be open for us. Generally, the smaller the place, the more they open up when a cruise ship comes in. For this, you don't need to be open. This one is open the whole time. Keep your eyes peeled as you wander through Qaqortoq, because you are walking through Greenland's largest open-air art gallery. It's called the Stone and Man Art Project. It began in 1993 when the Greenlandic artist Aka Ho invited Nordic artists to carve sculptures directly into the town's granite walls and boulders. There are over 30 stone carvings scattered across the town depicting animals, faces, myths, daily life. There are no fences, there's no admission fees, it's just art embedded in the landscape. And the project celebrates Greenlandic identity. It brings a contemporary interpretation to ancient traditions, blending the natural environment with public art in a uniquely Qaqortoq way. This one is where I put number 2. It's very close to the tender. But if you want to see all 30, and remember you've got 30 to find, then you're going all over the town, which is really good fun. It's a really good fun scavenger hunt. And because you know you're looking for 30, you'll know when you found them all. The Church of Our Saviour, it's a common name here, is a historic Lutheran church again, built in 1832. Again, known for its red wooden exterior. It's got a peaceful waterfront setting. And it holds deep spiritual and historical significance here because this is the burial site of Hans Egede. That's the Danish-Norwegian missionary who's often referred to as the Apostle of Greenland. Egede arrived in Greenland in 1721 with the goal of reintroducing Christianity to what he believed were lost Norse descendants. He never found them, and instead his efforts led to the long-term Danish colonization of Greenland. The church remains active today and is an important symbol of Greenland's colonial and religious history. But there's another church in town too. This is a more modern church, very much more modern church. It's also Lutheran, and this one is named after a lady, Gertrude Rasch, who happened to be the wife of Hans Egede. So Gertrude Rasch played a crucial role in supporting Egede's mission, and she's honored for her resilience in this harsh Arctic climate with this church. The church was built in 1973. It serves as one of the town's main places of worship. It's simple, it's got this contemporary design, and that reflects modern Greenlandic architecture. And it still maintains traditional religious functions. Services here are conducted in Greenlandic, and the church remains an active community center for local religious and cultural events as well. Heading just outside of the town, a whole 12-minute walk or 700 meters, the Telemuseum offers a small but informative look at the history of telecommunications in Greenland. So it's located in a former telephone exchange building, and the museum features old switchboards, radios, telephones, Morse code equipment, and it traces the evolution of communication technology here in one of the world's most remote regions. It highlights the challenges of maintaining contact across vast, icy landscapes, and it showcases how these technologies helped connect Greenland with the outside world. The exhibits are mostly in Danish and Greenlandic, but the visuals make it accessible to everybody, and you can always use your Google Translate to take photographs of the screen and then translate it using your phone later. It's open during the summer. I really hope it will be open for us. This one's only accessible via a tour, but the Havalsi Church ruins are Greenland's best preserved Norse ruins. They are part of a UNESCO-listed Qaqortoq World Heritage Site. It's located about 18 kilometers northeast of Qaqortoq, and it's accessible only by boat. It's a scenic journey that takes approximately 1.5 hours each way. And the stone church was built in the early 14th century. It's the site of the last known written record of the Norse in Greenland. There was a wedding here in 1408. And after that, the Norse vanished. It's surrounded by remnants of farm buildings, and it offers a rare glimpse into medieval Norse life here. Tours from Qaqortoq are mainly in the summer because they are weather dependent, but the entry to the site itself is free. So if you can get yourself on a boat there, once you step off the boat, you're free to just explore the site as you wish. Just make sure that your boat driver does not leave you behind, or you might become the last known Norse. Here they are on a map. So, we've seen two very different playbooks at work here in Greenland. The Vikings made a big noise about the place. They sold a dream. They named it Greenland, a name chosen not for its accuracy, but for its curb appeal. They brought sagas, cathedrals, bishops, bells, and they carved their place in history with runes and reputation. They built a brand, and it worked. Sort of. Because to this day, school children in Europe and North America learn about the Vikings before they learn about the food chain or iambic pentameter. We admire their ships, their spirit, their style. Everyone talks about the Vikings. And yet it was the Inuit who survived. Quietly, modestly, without commemorative coins or long-winded sagas. Their stories weren't written down for outsiders. They were oral blueprints for how to live well, live humbly, and live here. They didn't need to be famous in Michigan. They needed to make sure that their children in Greenland grew up knowing how to hunt, how to read the weather, and when to move. And that's what makes this such a fascinating case study. Because if you judge success by visibility, by name recognition, by historical drama, the Norse win, hands down. Go Team Viking. But if you judge it by resilience, longevity, environmental fit, it's no contest. The Inuit life prevailed. Which leads to an important idea. Both were, in their own way, successful. The Norse sold an idea, a future, a legend. It's why we're visiting. It's what marketers today would call brand awareness. But the Inuit passed down a survival system, a way to live in harmony in one of the harshest environments on Earth. That's not awareness, that's endurance. And Greenland wins overall because of both. So maybe this isn't a tale of winners and losers. Maybe it's a tale of two different strategies aimed at two different goals. The Vikings wanted to draw people in. The Inuit wanted to keep people alive. The Vikings gave us stories, the Inuit gave us continuity. And Greenland, in its icy, wind-battered, jaw-droppingly beautiful way, gives us both. So the next time you see a travel ad or a brochure with these blue skies and smiling faces, think of Eric the Red. But next time you hear an old story passed down through generations, quietly holding a people together, remember the Inuit. Because sometimes the best marketing is about standing out, and sometimes it's about fitting in so well that you can outlast the ice. Thank you.